We will start in 1 minute. 1 minute remaining. All right. What's up? Welcome in. I guess I will start the show. We are live on YouTube and Colorcast. Thank you for joining me. This is Too Tall Sports for our weekly Tuesday night sports chat. Thank you for joining me. I like to do a live show every once a week. Once again, broadcasting on the audio app, which is Colorcast. You can go check me out there. Just look for the Too Tall Sports Show. I'm also on YouTube live right now. You can go to my Too Tall Sports podcast page on YouTube. I'm live there. And so this is more of a fun, open, loose conversation with you guys. Whoever's watching, drop your comments. What's going on? Grandizer, what's going on? If you can hear me, thank you very much. Happy holidays as well. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. And coming off of your Philadelphia Eagles win tonight, I might get to them for a little bit. I wasn't planning on talking about them tonight, but they did win, so I'll hook them up. But as always, on social media, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. You can follow me there. And on Colorcast, once again, you can follow me, Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube channel. I have a podcast dropping this Thursday morning. I will be taking next week off for podcasting just because it's, between the holidays and whatnot. So I'm not going to be, I might not even do a YouTube live next week either, but just because it's the holidays, I might take a week off before we get ready for the new year. So yeah, with that, I'll give you the rundown of the show. I'm going to start with Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods this weekend in the PNC Championship. We'll talk about that, how ironically John Daly and John Daly II were able to beat Tiger and Charlie in kind of a father-son showdown. We'll talk about that. I'll start with them. I'll get to some NFL as well. We're going to talk about the Lions and the Arizona Cardinals game. I don't know what's going on with Arizona, but we'll talk about them too. The Baltimore Ravens are having some issues right now. They didn't look very good. Lamar Jackson's out. Not a huge drop-off between him and Tyler Huntley, though. I think some people are saying that. Huntley looked pretty damn good, so we'll talk about them, too, in the second half of the show. Antonio Brown is back from his fake vaccination card. We can get into Antonio Brown and how important he is now to that Tampa Bay Bucs team with a lot of injuries at the moment. Saints look, they have Brady's number, so we'll talk about the Saints-Bucs game. Anthony Davis out for a month. I'll do a little bit of basketball toward the end here, talk about what it's going to be like for LeBron and Russell Westbrook to kind of carry the load here the rest of the way, at least for the foreseeable future. I just saw tonight on Twitter that former Cavalier Iman Shumpert was talking about how LeBron may have ruined the modern NBA, which a lot of people think because he decided to do the whole big three and team up with Wade and Bosh, and how the NBA looks a lot different now in the last 10 years than it did before that. So we'll talk about that at the toward the end. But and also Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's in MVP form, right? We'll get to Aaron Rodgers as well. But I do want to start with Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods, like I mentioned. And by the way, anytime during the show, drop your questions in the chat. Sorry, any comments or hot takes, I'll respond to those. So I'll try to give you guys a chance to do that. But I'll check the chat as we're doing this. So Charlie Woods and Tiger Woods. So Charlie's 12 years old, and he and his dad Tiger finished second in the twosome pairing of the PNC Championship. Ironically, who did they finish behind? None other than John Daly and John Daly II, who is a freshman golfer at University of Arkansas. So John Daly has spent a lot of his career pretty much doing everything a professional golfer shouldn't be doing, right? We're talking about drinking, smoking, not taking care of his body, never working out, not practicing enough, not caring about putting enough time into the game of golf, which is such a tough sport. And John Daly kind of, didn't care. It just seemed like he didn't care. But most people will tell you John Daly arguably was the most talented golfer in the last 30 or so years before this new crop of young guys came along. But it was pretty much Tiger, Phil, There was a moment where David Duval, if you remember, was kind of a dude. Then he got hurt and fell out of golf. But if John Daly actually cared, he may have been the next, the other Tiger Woods. However, he didn't. And Tiger would always kind of put the work in and maybe a little too much because it wrecked his body. He was doing Navy SEAL training. So Tiger was the extreme of somebody that cared about golf and had a father that had structure and wanted him to be perfect all the time. And he groomed him to be a machine and a personality-less guy that was all about golf. So you got two extremes here. The guy that was a mess and the guy that had every opportunity to be great. But we finally got this matchup, kind of a random, fun little, revenge matchup for the Daly boys. And John Daly hasn't won a PGA tournament in over 15 years. The last time he was in contention, he lost to Tiger in a playoff hole back at Harding Park in 2005. And he hasn't won a tournament since then. So, as I mentioned, John Daly, not the model citizen for kids growing up playing golf, but when you watch him play, he's got all the tools that you need to be a great golfer. So it was nice revenge for John Daly and his son. Tiger wasn't exactly in peak condition. He's coming off of rehab for that horrible car accident that he had back in February, I believe. But he hit the ball relatively well. I mean, Charlie and him rattled off 11 straight birdies on Sunday. That was impressive as hell. And they still lost. They were tied at one point, but John Daly and his son pulled away. But still an impressive showing for Tiger. And as always, I'm sure most of you guys feel the same way. When Tiger plays, the ratings supposedly triple. People want to watch Tiger Woods play golf. It is a reason to watch golf. There wasn't much of one before he came along other than the golf purists out there. Tiger brought a whole new audience into the fold. So being able to have Tiger healthy, he's probably not going to play a lot of tournaments like he always does. So he's going to be kind of out of it for a while. But at least we got to see him. Let me get to his son, Charlie Woods, the 12-year-old kid. I was incredibly impressed with Charlie. This dude, I mean, he's already like a spitting image of Tiger, kind of a mini-me, so to speak. The guy swings the same way. He putts the same way. He has the same mannerisms all the time. When he hits a shot and he'll hold the putter up when he thinks it's going in, or just the way he walks. And everything that kid does is just like what I would see a mini Tiger doing. Not only does he hit the ball well, and if you watch Charlie Woods, this dude is pure. And don't worry, Grandizer. I will get to some football, but I had to go off on this is my opening monologue here. I was just impressed with Tiger's son. I really was. Not only does he hit the ball well, talking about Charlie Woods, Tiger's son, he plays well in front of a crowd. And at 12 years old, to embrace that kind of pressure, not that there was anything crazy on the line, but my God, I don't know if I could have done that at 12 years old with a bunch of people watching and hitting perfect shots, throwing darts at the green the way he was. That was incredible. I was just like, how is this kid doing this? So, it'll be curious to see what happens to Charlie as he grows up, if he's really passionate about golf, if that's what he wants to do, how Tiger kind of brings him along. I'm sure, and you can bet, Tiger doesn't want to do what his dad did to him. Or maybe that's the only thing Tiger knows, and he's going to push him to be great. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But it'll be interesting to see how Tiger kind of handles Charlie Woods. I didn't like that I don't know if you guys saw this, some writers out there and fans were quick to point out that Charlie is like outside the top 100 for his age group in Florida for young junior golfers. I didn't like that. I was just like, are you kidding me? Did you watch this kid? You're not doing this at 12 years old. I know it's all relative compared to his age group, but like, really? I didn't understand the pushback at all. Let's just watch this kid and enjoy it. That's all. Let's just watch him and enjoy how good he is already and how much confidence he has at that age, playing in front of people, playing against some of the greatest golfers in the world right now. Justin Thomas was there. Henrik Stenson was there. There's dudes there in this tournament. So very impressed with Charlie Woods. And obviously Tiger, great to have him back. You just watch that swing for that kid and the poise he has. It was amazing. So props to Charlie and Tiger Woods. They look good. And it was good for golf. If he becomes something, I am looking forward to watching Charlie Woods play golf, for the rest of our lives. So props to them. But hey, congrats to the Daly boys. I'll get to the NFL now. So I don't know what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals. I really don't. They were really hot early. Started out 7-0. The Packers went in there and beat them. Okay, good loss. The Packers are really good. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers in a little bit. But I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that offense. I know DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there. They got Chase Edmonds back from the IR. Kyler Murray doesn't look right now. It's just that the offense looks out of sync. The one-win Lions beat them easily on Sunday, 30-12. All of a sudden, 2 straight losses for the Cards. I don't understand it. The Lions, they play hard, right? I mean, could have been just a letdown game. Obviously, the Cardinals lost to the Rams at home. That was kind of that was a tough game, big loss. The Rams look good again. But, man, to go into Detroit and lose that badly, and just Kyler Murray said they weren't prepared for that game. I don't know. That's a tough one. For a team that should be tanking at this point, I got to give Dan Campbell and the Lions players a lot of credit because they should be playing for the number 1 pick. They should not be playing to win right now, if you're being real, right? As a fan, I'm not a fan of the Lions, but if you're a fan, what's the point of winning now? You can go maybe 6-11 and not make the playoffs if you won out the rest of the time. I don't understand that. You kind of should be tanking, hate to say it, but what's the point of being in the middle of the pack right now? 0. You might as well. You're already 11 losses deep. You might as well keep it going. But you can't tell an athlete that, and I wouldn't want to purposely lose. Like, that's just a bad look. No athlete is going to purposely lose. The front office might put certain guys out there to make the coaching staff play certain guys to lose, but players don't play to lose. So very impressed by the Detroit Lions. They lose a lot, but man, when they get out there, they play really hard and they play a lot of tight games. So, and somehow Jared Goff was 21 for 26, 3 touchdown passes against a pretty good Cardinals D. Like I mentioned, DeAndre Hopkins was out. Doesn't get any easier for the Cardinals either as they host the Indianapolis Colts on Saturday night, who are streaking at the moment as well, as they came off a win against the Patriots on Saturday night. So impressed with the Lions, not impressed with the Cardinals. Maybe they are frauds moving forward. It's going to be Tampa's going to be there, and it's going to be Green Bay. It's going to be the Rams. So I don't know. Maybe the Niners start streaking. That NFC West is really tough. So I am not a believer in the Cards right now, but maybe they get right, and this was just a letdown game against a really bad team. Who knows? And by the way, drop your comments in the chat. I'll be sure to answer those if you have any questions or comments or takes or whatever. But feel free to drop comments about anything or anything I talk about on the show. Let's move to the Saints. They obviously they're an average team, right? They're in the middle of the road, 500 team. But they seem to have Tom Brady's number in the Bucs. They shut him out 9-0 in a defensive battle. Saints were also without their head coach, Sean Payton, who was in COVID safety protocols, health and safety protocols. So they didn't even have their head coach. And Dennis Allen gets out there and just the former Raiders coach is like, yeah, we got Brady. We good. So really cool win for the Saints. It doesn't really mean much. They're not going to go to the playoffs. And, Taysom Hill is not a franchise quarterback. So, Jameis Winston's out. It's a whatever deal for the Saints this year. But very impressive win for the New Orleans Saints over a high-powered offense like Tampa. But the problem is Tampa's all of a sudden caught the injury bug, and they can't get lucky right now. Leonard Fournette's going to the IR. They expect him possibly back for the playoffs. Chris Godwin, unfortunately, he was on my fantasy team. He's out with a torn ACL. He's done for the rest of the year. Mike Evans has a week-to-week hamstring injury. They can afford to rest some people, maybe, but they're going to lose that home field advantage if they don't close out the season and make sure they're the number 1 overall seed, because it doesn't look good right now. It really doesn't for all their offensive weapons out there. So, and Brady couldn't get the ball to Gronk much either. It was just a really tough game for Brady. Obviously, he threw the Microsoft Surface, so that didn't look good. So, it was a frustrating game for Brady and the Bucs. I don't think there's anything to worry about necessarily, other than the fact that they're losing some players. So if they can hold the fort down until the playoffs, I think they should still be one of the favorites out of the NFC. And speaking of the Bucs, what a perfect time to bring back good old Antonio Brown. So Antonio Brown was missing and suspended for 3 games because he presented a fake vaccination card, which is just like, bro, you think you're going to get away with this? Like, no way. It's unbelievable that he was able to get away with it in the beginning, but just the fact that you're willing to do that, and it just adds to the folklore of Antonio Brown and the good old stories of his career. Just in Oakland, he had enough stories to deal with, right? Recording John Gruden and his conversation about him coming back, getting frostbite on his feet from being in the cryo machine without socks on, and just being a complete nuisance. He had that off the field issue with like a FedEx or UPS driver. That was just in the last couple of years. It just shows you, if you're good at sports, and you're talented and any baggage or whatever, if they can get you on the field and get you back, you'll find a spot. There have been plenty of examples of that. If you're talented, they will find a spot for you. But man, it's a perfect time though to get Antonio Brown back, who, yeah, as you guys know, Gronk and Brady are big fans of. Brady let him live with him in Tampa in the beginning. Brady vouched for him to come play. So, and look, when Antonio Brown's out there, he's pretty damn good. One of the best receivers of all time. As wacky as he is off the field, really, really good receiver. He even scored in the Super Bowl last year. So he's a big factor for that offense if you really think about it. Can we trust Antonio Brown to be a guy, though, to be a reliable, trustworthy model citizen moving forward for Tampa Bay? I don't know if we can. Can he hold it together for the next 6 weeks? I don't know. I can't say that I believe that he will. He needs to, though. Hopefully Brady got in his ear and is like, hey, stop effing up right now. Like, I need you at this point. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with AB. But, man, Brady needs him more than ever right now. So I guess it's going to be it remains to be seen with what Tampa's going to do. But they still have enough firepower. Like, they still got Ronald Jones. They still got Cameron Brate. They got Gronk. They got other receivers. So as long as their defense can hold together and Brady's still Brady, they should be fine down the stretch. I mentioned Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They kind of snuck out with a win against Baltimore, who is Baltimore. Look, kudos to them for going for it. I credit the Chargers coach, Brandon Staley, for going for it on fourth down. I like it for the most part. You don't have to do it every time, but for the most part. And Baltimore is 2-8 on 2-point conversions this year. Not a good ratio there. And they have their first 3-game losing streak by a combined 4 points. They're the first team in NFL history to have a 3-game losing streak by a combined total of 4 points for those 3 games. They're just losing close games. Lamar hasn't been great. He's kind of regressed a little bit this year. He's not in MVP form anymore. And this kid, Tyler Huntley, the backup, some would argue, looks as good as Lamar right now. He had 4 total touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing the other day against a good Packers defense. So I was impressed with Huntley, and they should have won that game. If you remember that last play, he was just trying to force it to Mark Andrews in the corner. Marquise Brown was open in the back of the end zone. They didn't even look at him. So if we're being honest, the Ravens should have won that game. But the Packers keep rolling with another impressive win on the road. And Aaron Rodgers ties Brett Favre with 442 touchdowns, which is the most in Green Bay Packers history. He is now, once again, making a great case for MVP. Some people don't want to admit it, but since week 1, when he got trampled by the Saints, he's had 30 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions since week 1. 30 touchdowns and 2 picks since week 1. That's MVP numbers. And if you remember, they didn't look too good without Rodgers when they had to go to Kansas City and throw Jordan Love out there on a tough week going to Arrowhead Stadium. Didn't look good. So I would say as long as Rodgers and Devontae Adams are healthy and that defense plays like it has been this year, Rodgers really hasn't had all great defenses except when, he went to the Super Bowl, he had a good defense that year. You give Aaron Rodgers a good defense, he will take you to the playoffs. So they're the number 1 overall seed at the moment, and I don't know if anybody's going to stop them along the way. They're going to have home field, so good luck, playing in Lambeau in January against that team. Well, I will move to the NBA now. Iman Shumpert, former Cavalier, some of you guys might remember him. He was on a podcast. I just saw this right before the show. Iman Shumpert, he recently won Dancing with the Stars. He's been out of the league for a little bit, but he was a role player, if you guys don't know who that is, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's been on a bunch of teams, but he was on a podcast and said, as a former teammate of LeBron James, he did say that LeBron kind of ruined the modern NBA by going to Miami and bringing Chris Bosh and with him and teaming up with Dwayne Wade and forming the big 3 down there, the Heatles, if you remember, and kind of dictating your own future as a player versus waiting for a front office to make moves for you the old-fashioned way. And Iman Shumpert basically said, look, you created a super team, and it kind of now there's no more rivalries as much anymore. There was the Cleveland and the Warriors for a little while, but it's taking away from the purity of giving teams time to get right. It's almost obviously this is a society now where there's no attention spans and people don't accept mediocrity ever. And they're quick to judge and quick to pull the trigger on things. And, if these guys don't work together, then we're going to get rid of them and get somebody else. It's just no patience anymore. It's nothing you can do about it. This is what society is now. You have to adapt. So what Iman Shumpert was saying is that LeBron kind of, for better or worse, took his career into his own hands. There's been a lot of flack about that. And a lot of people, get on Kevin Durant for leaving Oklahoma City and going after losing 3-1 to the Warriors and going to a 73-win team the following year. So a lot of people don't like this era of teaming up with superstars and kind of eliminating competition, so to speak. If you think about it, LeBron left Cleveland, so now they are no longer a factor in the Eastern Conference. Chris Bosh at the time left a playoff contending team in Toronto. They're out of the picture. So you're eliminating contenders and you're stacking the deck in your favor. Nowadays, you have to do that, right? There's nobody winning a championship on their own. It's impossible now. You have to have 2, 3, 4 stars on your team to really do it. It's tough to do. It's tough to make the contracts work. It's tough to get the right fit, the right mix of players. So I do agree to a certain extent with Iman Shumpert saying, look, yes, of course, free agency is fine, but to form a super team like that really changed the trajectory of the NBA moving forward. And the Warriors, you could say, what about the Warriors? They did it organically, really. They did it through the draft. They drafted Steph. They drafted Klay Thompson. They drafted Draymond Green in the second round. They didn't do any of these free agent moves until, they got Andre Iguodala. They had some role players that they got, Sean Livingston, David West, David Lee. They got a bunch of guys. But until Kevin Durant, that was the first, we're going to recruit another superstar to join the team. So, yeah, it sucks to think about the league is kind of a minute-to-minute league. It's just, let's just keep moving around and go play with our best friends. And there's no more rivalries anymore in sports. It's a lot of people just following players now. They're not following teams anymore. They're just following players. It's hard to, I don't like that. And I'm similar, I guess, in age. If you're mid-30s and older, you remember the rivalries, Lakers, Celtics, there was something there. Even the battles of the Eastern Conference, there's something there. Like the Lakers in San Antonio, it's back in the day, or the Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers, the Shaq and Kobe era, when they used to go head-to-head with those guys. And the Sacramento Kings had a run. There's less of that now. It's more player-driven than team-driven. And I think the NFL is still team-driven. I think that's a good thing. It is becoming a little bit like the NBA, but excuse me. It's football is much more of a team thing. So a lot of player movement in the NBA. I'll say that. I did want to mention Anthony Davis, as hurt as often as he is hurt, this dude is down again. Anthony Davis reportedly out at least 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. Not a good thing for the Lakers, right? Now they're completely dependent on Russ and LeBron to kind of carry the load the rest of the way. I think it's going to be difficult. They're just not a very good team. They're basically 500. They're not an upper echelon team. They're not as good as Golden State. They're not as good as I don't know about Denver possibly if they get healthy. They're not as good as Denver, not as good as Utah. They don't play defense like Phoenix. They don't score like Phoenix. The Lakers are just not a good team. They're super old. They don't have any young assets outside of Talen Horton-Tucker and maybe Malik Monk. They got Austin Reeves, the kid who made the game winner the other day. They got a ton of dudes out with COVID protocols. You can't rely on an older Carmelo to be your third guy at this point. I like Carmelo's game, but can we really expect LeBron and Russ to right the ship? I think they need some more time together. I don't even like that they're floating out rumors that Russ may be on the trade market. I don't love that at all. They've only been together for like 30 games. Like, can we give them a little more time? This is what I'm talking about with the lack of patience with player movement now. Now it's like, okay, you're making these moves, but are you willing to wait to see if they can figure it out? The problem is when you have a 37-year-old LeBron, you don't have time to wait. It is a season-to-season league for these guys. If this isn't working, they may do something at the trade deadline because the Lakers, it's championship or bust out here. Like, this is not a small market. This is a market that if you don't win, we ignore you. Now, we're not going to ignore the Lakers or the Dodgers, but pretty much, if you're not in contention, you guys remember that 6-year run where the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. They weren't even close. It was a rebuilding team until we traded all those guys for Anthony Davis. And then the expectations came back. But man, it is rough out here when the Lakers are bad. And they're kind of bad right now. They're about average, right? I know LeBron's missed a ton of games, and maybe this is the beginning of the end of, the decline has started for LeBron. You didn't used to sit out much. Maybe it's load management, maybe it's injuries, maybe whatever it is. But it just, something's not right now. They're celebrating wins over bad teams, and sorry, something in my eye right now. Yeah, it's been a rough year so far. Nothing's been easy for this team. Their offense isn't easy. They're just, they're really not controlling the game as much as you would think a LeBron James led team would. And they're going to have to depend on him now. We need LeBron to kind of, I hate to say it, but sit out or load manage a little bit. But now he's not going to be able to. He's going to have to play a ton of minutes because AD's out. The problem is, what are we going to get from AD when he comes back? Do we get a guy? I mean, sprained MCL is no joke. And usually I get on AD for falling too much because he does, and he gets hurt too much because he does. But when he got hurt the other day, LeBron kind of shoved a guy off of himself, and he landed on AD's knee. That was unlucky. But for the most part, AD limps a lot. He falls weird. He's just like oddly non-athletic, and the times when he should be able to brace his fall a little bit better and roll on the ground a little better when you fall. He just he awkwardly falls. I don't get it. It's like a baby giraffe kind of moving around. Like it's not easy for him moving around in the paint. Maybe that's why he doesn't go down there that much, because he gets beat up a little bit. So, and a lot of people try to remind us that AD was 6'1" in high school, and then he had a crazy growth spurt. So he was really built to be a guard. He wasn't really meant to be a big guy. So maybe that's why this is who AD is. He's really meant to be a guard. However, you're 6'10", 6'11". We're going to need you to get down there, get some rebounds, block shots, and get some easy buckets for us. That's what we need. We need easy buckets. This offense is not easy. LeBron's not a shooter. We have Russ, who's definitely not a shooter. Guys like Rondo and other old role players are not shooters. Obviously, Dwight's not a shooter. We don't have a good three-point shooting team. So what we need out of Anthony Davis is a healthy, dominant couple of years ago Anthony Davis, and the guy that helped us win a championship in the bubble. That guy. We need that guy. But do I think at 28 years old, with his injury history, we're going to get that guy ever again? I don't think so. I think it's going to get worse from here on out. And I hate to say this, I don't want to give up on him too soon. I really don't. I want to give AD a chance to be the guy. But I don't know if you can build a franchise around him moving forward with like him and Russell Westbrook stuck in a bad contract. I think we need to make a move for Damian Lillard. I know he's in his 30s now. We need to build a team that is ready to win and not just cycle dudes out every year that are trying to fit role player pieces in there. I like Rob Pelinka. I think he's done it pretty much for what Kawhi did to the Lakers, holding us hostage till the 11th hour to build a roster that eventually won a championship. That was impressive. I was impressed with Rob. Never thought I'd see Dwight Howard come back, and he did. So I was impressed with Rob finding the right guys, him, JaVale McGee. He had a good roster, but we lost. I didn't care about Kuzma. I was glad to see him go. I didn't care about KCP that much. We can find another KCP. But losing Alex Caruso, I guess I kind of underestimated his impact on the defensive end. I wish we would have paid Alex Caruso a little bit. It wasn't that crazy expensive for a role player. I would have loved to have him back. So it remains to be seen with this Lakers team. They're going to play Christmas Day with like half a roster with all the COVID and injuries that they have. So hopefully it's still an exciting week, an exciting weekend. I wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas, happy holidays, Happy New Year, everything. If I don't see you next week, I'll see you in the new year. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. I have an episode every Thursday on my podcast. Check it out. I got an ESPN LA producer coming on the show. That's a really fun episode. Check that out on Thursday morning. You can always, like I mentioned, find me on YouTube, Too Tall Sports Podcast. Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. On Instagram, it's at Too Tall Sports Podcast. I'm everywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, you name it. I'm there, Amazon Music. So I appreciate you guys listening as always. Glad to have you in here, especially Grandizer. Thanks for being a loyal fan. I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you again. And have have a great week and weekend, and I'll see you guys in the new year, most likely. Thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Well,